what they are asking. So again, page 70, number 9. If we're talking about deductions from gross pay, in number 9, we are going to use the chart back on page 41.
42.
42. 41 or 42. Okay, it just depends on if they're single or if they're married. Alright? So, when you do this now, yes, deductions or withholding allowances are the same thing, in a sense. Okay, so in this one right here, Christy is married. She claims 3 withholding allowances. What amount should be deducted from her weekly earnings for federal withholding taxes? So we take it back. What do you find out? Page 42. 3 withholding and $612. 26. Everybody agree? So again now, this is the same thing as when we go down to federal income taxes. This is the federal part that we're withholding to find that next part. Federal income taxes means that you're looking for groups of things to deduct. And this is one of those deductions. Right? So, the first section, you're always going to use that. Second one that we want to look at is number 10. So, Ron has or earns $450 in gross wages. How much is deducted from Ron's wages for Social Security and Medicare? So again, this one they want you to do it individually. If you do it together, then you would use what percentage? 7.65. But remember, this is a percent, so the first thing that I have to do with any of those is what?
Move it over 2, please.
Move the decimal. Okay? So, in this case right here, for my Social Security, I'm going to have 6.2%, right? But the first thing that I have to do is turn it into 0.062. And the other thing that confuses people, I think, on this right here, you always go back to the original amount. So don't find this answer, subtract it, and then use that new number to find Medicare. You always go back to the original amount. Okay? So, you want to see the math? Anybody?
No.
So again, you would take this, and I don't remember what it is, times $216, and then I would do my other percentage times $216. What's the Medicare one? 1.45, so 0.0145. But I always use the same number. Okay? Yeah, I just made it up. I couldn't remember what the number was. Okay? So, when they get to the next section and talk about federal deductions, your allowances from the first one, and then these two answers would all be a part of those deductions. And we're working towards our taxable income, and that's what we take to the other chart.
I have a question for number 9. Was 26, that's for the year? That was their federal for the year?
No, that's what you would do for each week.
Are they weekly? These?
Some people are, or yeah.
Oh, it says weekly. Oh, check it.
Okay. It would all be determined on like your check by when you would actually get paid. So if it's 26, but you get paid just once a month, they would take 26 times 4.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Okay, so down to 13. The other thing that you have to do on 13, now we get into federal income taxes. So we're looking at deductions as a whole. What was the number for a single deduction if you didn't reach a certain amount? What was the single number? 5,450? What was my married group?
10,900.
10,000 what? 10,900? Okay, and what were exemptions?
3.
3,500? Okay, so those are numbers that you gotta remember, along with these percentages also. Okay, now remember, exemptions are not the same thing as adjustments. Exemptions are a part of the deductions that I'm gonna take away. Adjustments, again then, are kind of like deductions, but adjustments do what? Adjustments you would actually take out before you figure out your taxes. So that was that childcare stuff, retirement, those kind of things are adjustments. So you're still subtracting them, but you're subtracting them before you do your calculations, not after. That's where some of you get confused too.
Wait, we take the exemptions out after the taxable income?
No, you're gonna do exemptions before also, but adjustments you would take out before you would actually do your calculations. Exemptions are a part of your calculations.
So you just subtract both of those numbers and that's your taxable income?
For this one? Yes. So, 13, she's talking about. Jorge had 38,000 in adjusted gross income. So they've already adjusted it some other way. So he might have had his child care in there or whatever. He took a standard deduction of $5,400 and one exemption for $3,500. What was his taxable income? As Olivia just said, you're just going to subtract those two things. And then you would take it back to a chart like page, I think it was like 45. 39?
49.
49? There you go, 49. So again, this is a different chart, but on page 49, it has to be a price, in our case, for the chart. Now, anything that you would figure out, the government or whatever would have a chart for it, but we're limited to just the things that they did for us, right? So just take that into
What
consideration.
is, head of the household? Will it say they're head of the household?
Yeah. It's just a different category, but yeah. You don't really have to worry about that one. So try 49. This one you can actually look at the chart. So Ben is single. He has taxable income of $23,500, and his employer's already deducted $3,640 in withholding taxes. Find Ben's tax due and any refund or amount owed. So go back to page 49. Look at the single sheet, or the single one, where it's $23,500, and tell me how much taxes he should owe. 3,000 what? 38. Everybody agree with that? Okay? So now his company, or whoever he works for, already deducted what? 640. So, this is what the government says. This is what his company has already done. Does he get any back, or does he still owe? He gets it back, right? We want the company to take more than what the government wants. Then we get a refund. So we get a refund of, and then just subtract it, and Justice says 502. Okay? So if your company doesn't take as much as the government says, then you owe. And again, like I said, for me, that's usually, we're right close to Iowa tax. My Iowa taxes are always really close.
You don't take deductions out. Oh, it's.
They already did it for you in this problem.
But if they didn't say that, if they said his gross was.
If you were gonna do 13, you would have subtracted those two and then taken that number to that chart. But they already did that, right? And this one in 13, you wouldn't have found it on the chart just because they didn't have that number on there. But there's always a chart for every single number. They just limited it to us. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? 17 is the next one. I don't know what the guy or lady's name is. Oh, it's a her. Haru. Haru's taxable income is $44,200. So, they've already done the taxable income. They've already figured out all the deductions. They've already done all that stuff. This would, again, would be the number you would take back to that chart on page 49 if they asked for federal income tax. The $44,200. But they're just asking, find her state income tax if she pays $1,600 plus 7% of her taxable income over $40,000. So, what are we going to do on this one? Perfect. 4,200. Everybody see how Derek got that? It's 44,200 minus the 40,000. Because it's only over 40,000, right? So I subtract the two numbers times 7%, and then we're going to add our 1,600 because that's like the basic or the baseline of it. So you would do this math, get an answer here, add it to 1,600, and this would be your grand total. It's 7% in number 17.
For the social security, in the book it says it only goes up to like 102,000 or something. Does that?
You only do social security up to that amount. So if you get past 102,000, you don't pay social security anymore.
At all?
At all. So if you make $120,000, you would have to figure out what you make per month. So you'd take 120 divided by 12, and then start doing that, adding that amount to itself over and over again until you got to 102,000. Anything after that does not get taxed by Social Security.
But everything before that does?
Yes. So like your first, I'm going to throw out a number, 8 months would all be the same amount. Because you would make, I'm just going to say $12,000. I'd take 12,000 times my Social Security. And that would be the same for those first 8 months until I got to that amount. And then the last few wouldn't have any of it. So essentially you get away with it. Okay with the state and city income tax. We go to benefits and job expenses. Number 19. Shirley earns $20.50 per hour, working 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. Her employee benefits include $1,200 per year for health insurance and $500 per year for free parking. Her expenses include $325 for dues and $1,300 for commuting. Now again, they don't tell you those last two expenses, is that per year or what? So I would assume that you would probably think that it's per year also. But they should have really told you what's the dues per year and the, I guess commuting would be gas, right? Is the gas per year or per month? They don't really tell you, but. So, it says, what are Shirley's net job benefits? So in this case right here, remember, there's a couple things that you got to remember. What does net job benefits mean? Minus the expenses. Exactly right. In number 18, the one we didn't go over, it said, what are his total job benefits? That is just basically the things that you are getting because you work there. So your parking, your whatever. Those are all things that might be a benefit, right? We've talked about a lot of the benefits. So in this case, what do I have to do? I have to first figure out how much I make, right? Or how much Shirley does. And how do I do that?
50 times 40 times 50.
2050 times 40 times 50, wasn't it?
860.
How much?
860
Total, or this
Yeah.
first one?
total.
Say it one more time.
860.
It's gotta be more than that.
Yeah.
This times 40, that answer times 50.
Yeah.
20, 50 times.
No. 43,000.
Thank you.
41,000.
It's.
Donald, what are you doing?
This 800 number was the.
41,000?
Yes.
Okay. So then what do we do?
Add 1,200.
No. Oh yeah, include.
Add 1,200.
So we get another 1,200
And 500.
and 500. And then we're gonna subtract what?
325 and 13.
And 1,300. So again, my salary. These would be my benefits. And we add our benefits, and then these are my expenses, and I subtract them out. And this should get my net. Anytime that we talk about net, we're talking about the grand total, right? So, can anybody do it besides Donald? 41,000.
So when it says total, you would just add the benefits and the salary
Yes,
and not take out expenses.
right. Because they want job benefits, that's just the accumulation of all the good stuff. Okay? Net is me taking out my expenses too. Yeah. Donald, did you see what you did? You don't?
I do not.
Fair enough. Donald, type in 20.5 times 40.
That's a 20, but I don't understand.
Times 50.
Times 50.
Times 50 though.
41.
Yeah, that's 41. I don't understand how I got the 40 times 20.
You don't understand this?
Yeah, I got 860 for that.
He doesn't understand what.
That can be 860.
Yeah.
Now take 860 times 50.
My calculator says 6.
860 times 50 is 43.
So, in other words, your calculator doesn't know how to do this problem? That's what you're saying?
That's basically what I'm saying. It's-
Fair enough. I blame it on the calculator too.
It's low on battery.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think it's the guy's thumb running the calculator. Does anybody have a problem with the process? Besides Donald's calculating process?
So it's like the same thing, for the gross salary and the net gross.
In a sense, yeah. Because you could take away all of your deductions and stuff.
So anything that says net, you take out.
Yes.
So when it's not net, it's just.
The good things. 20. 20 is kind of the same thing, but a little different because they give it to you as a percent for your benefits. So this, they say Phyllis's job pays $46,350 plus 24% of wages in benefits. So to find the benefits, I'm going to take what? Now you better practice this so your calculator understands what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I gotta change the battery.
The battery shouldn't make you give wrong answers, trust me. So if I punch this into my calculator, I get $11,124 for benefits. Is that what somebody else got?
Yeah.
Everybody agreed to that?
Yes.
Okay? And so again, then I'm gonna add that to that first number, which was what?
46,350.
46,350. So again, if they just said, what are my job benefits? Miles, that's my answer. That's my job benefits. Okay? Now it says that I have to go through and look at my expenses, right? Her expenses for this job are only $2,200. Then it goes on for another job that she's looking at. But instead of doing it as a percent for their total wages, they actually added up the benefits in this one. Okay, so you would take 3,900 plus 450 plus 1,000 plus 1,500 plus 2,100 plus 400, and compare that to your 11,124, essentially. Because my expenses are about the same, they're about $400 difference. So when I add all these things up, what do we get?
12,194.
Okay? So, if you looked at it just in those couple things, which job is better? The second one probably is better, right? Even though you got a little bit more expenses, you got everything else that was more, right? My overall salary was more by over 3,000, and my benefits were over also, and my expenses were only a difference of like 400. So again, though, this would be one of those circumstances. I think in these questions they're just worried about money, but here's where you actually have to sit down with your family and say, okay, the first job is in, rural Iowa or small town Iowa compared to moving to Chicago. Do you want your kid to go to school with 600 kids in a class?
Yes.
That's the question, right? If it's in the middle of the year and you have a senior daughter, are you going to get her to move? Probably not. Right?
She wants half of her.
So again, it's these actual problems are about money, but you got to take into consideration some other things. So the last ones would be what we talked about on the quiz. So some of you really need to take these two to heart because you didn't do so hot on the quiz. Number 22. Joe earns $2,500 per month. Out of those wages, $266 in federal taxes, $191 in FICA, $100 in state income, and $125 in health insurance premiums were deducted. Find the percentage of gross pay that Joe takes home to the nearest percent. This is one thing where some of you missed because you didn't read what you were supposed to round that percent to. Okay, this one says the nearest percent. So, what am I going to do on this one?
500 minus 300.
Figure out what all the deductions.
There you go. Let's go with Derek's answer.
Do you have to do the insurance one?
Yes. No. They don't tell you that it's an adjustment. So this is a great question. Did you all hear what Ms. Budden asked? Do I have to do the health insurance first? You would only do that first if you were told that it was an adjustment. Okay? But that's a great question. So 266 plus 191.25.
682.25.
Okay? And what do I do with that?
Divide by 25.
Take that divided by 2,500.
Wait, what are you?
Yeah.
You're adding? Why did you add those?
Well, because it says that the question is find the percentage of gross pay. Okay? So I still want you to know that I make this amount. I'm going to do all of my deductions, which we found to be 682.25. Is that what somebody else got? Okay? Adding those four numbers in the problem.
Oh, I thought you were adding it.
Okay? So now I'm going to subtract these because these are the total of my deductions. Okay? And then this number I would take and divide it by that number.
And that's a percent.
Yes.
27%.
So here's the thing though. When you get 27%, is that what we want to answer with? 27% is actually what?
How much?
How much expenses are, right? So really, what we should do when we get this number right here, and we divide it, this is telling us how much we took out of expenses. So the number, which was 27%, subtract it from 100. So take 100 minus 27.
73.
73% is what we get to take home. Okay? If you're only taking 27% of your money home after taxes, find a new job. Because you're not making it. Yeah. Unless you really like your job. 24. Joe's weekly wages are $585. He has federal withholding, FICA, and $125 for health insurance deducted from his check. He is married and claims 2 withholding allowances. How much will he save in taxes if he has health insurance deducted before taxes? So this is what Ms. Budden was asking about earlier. And this is the one where you got to do it both ways. Okay, so you're going to start out with $585. Okay? From that $585, I need to do everything that they said. So you need to take and go back to that chart and find your 2 withholding taxes. If they were married. So go back to 41. Go to the married one, so it might be 42 actually.
How do you raise the married?
Because it says.
Oh,
Go to 585, and what do you get for 2? 30. Okay? So 585 minus 30. FICA taxes, right? If they just say FICA, what percentage do we use? Now we can go back and use 7.65, right? So I would take my 585 times 0.0765 to get my FICA taxes. 44.75.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to subtract that. Then I'm going to subtract my insurance, which was $125, right? Okay, so I would do that as one problem. Then it says, how much will I save if I do my insurance first? So the first thing I would have to do for the second part of the problem is take my 585 and subtract $125 first. So whenever they talk about an adjustment, you want to subtract that out first, because look, this is what I'm taking back to the table now. If I take this to the table, this first number is going to do what? Go down. But it's going to go down. That's good for us. Right? That's why if you can find adjustments, you want to do adjustments that way.
so would you still take, the FICA times 585, or would you take it times 4?
Great question. Okay? When you're doing this second one and you do this health insurance part and take it out first, you use 460 for all of the calculations. So I take 460 back to the table. I take 460 with my new FICA number too, 0.0765. That's a great question. So did anybody go back to the table with 460? 18. Look at the difference. We saved $12 of taxes right there. Now take 460 times 0.0765.
35.19.
35.19. Look how much we saved. Another $9 basically, right? So now, but don't take 125 again, because we've already done the 125. So take 460 minus those two, compared to this answer, and minus 18 minus 35.19. To this answer. You got to subtract those. Yep. Subtract all of these, and then take and subtract those. Did you get a number, Mr. Nels?
406.81.
406.81.
Yes.
Anybody do this one up here? The original problem?
385.
85.25. 385. What a sky over here, man.
So look, by taking my health insurance out first as an adjustment, I increase the amount I get to take home by $21. Pretty good deal, right? But again, you have to have that as an availability to do so. So again, if you can do adjustments, you want to do adjustments. Health insurance, Childcare. Alimony, remember? That was one of them? What's alimony? Alimony is if your parents are divorced, one probably has to pay the other to take care of you guys. Child support, yeah, that's alimony.
So alimony, insurance, and childcare.
Yes, those are
That's
the
it.
three basic ones that we talked about.
Are any of them all gonna be on test?
No. So those are adjustments. And then you would take that and subtract it. But what Molly's question is probably the biggest one right here. Don't go back to 585 to do the other calculations. Use the 460 in the chart and with your FICA taxes. Okay? So again, this last number then is the amount that I get to take home. So essentially we gain $21.
For adjustments, like this says there's an adjustment, and then we need to find the federal income tax, you take out the adjustment first. And then take that number to chart.
Yes. You want to do adjustments before you find your taxable income.
Adjustments and like exemptions and
Yep.
deductions. So
Everything.
you take all those out and then you go to the chart.
Yes.
So if there was taxes too, then you would
Any
take that
taxes.
number.
Take them out. Okay? Questions?